Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn Series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to spoton.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Alli Jarrett is president and CEO of Low Tide Seafood and Harold's Restaurant and Bar and Terrace, both in Houston, Texas. She went to the University of South Carolina on a golf scholarship, is an alum of the Golden Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program, serves on volunteer boards including the Texas Restaurant Association, Texas Golf Hall of Fame, and Spirit Golf Association. She's a senior warden at her church and loves to scuba dive. Hey, Alli, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks so much, Chad, for having me.
Sure. Hey, so tell me a little bit, to start off, tell me a little bit about your story. As I mentioned, you played golf at South Carolina. Where did you go from there?
I did. I grew up in a little town called Kingstree, South Carolina, in the rural part of the state, and I guess was lucky enough. I hurt my knee playing basketball and turned to golf and ended up getting a golf scholarship at the University of South Carolina. And I grew up in a family-owned wholesale business that I really enjoyed. My granddaddy started out of the trunk of his car, and we were in business 52 years. And then I had an opportunity to work in golf, and so I took a job with the United States Golf Association, and that's what brought me to Houston. I actually chose to live here. And Houston, by the way, I think is one of the most underrated cities in America. So that's how I ended up in Houston.
What is it about Houston that you like?
Well, it is. It's the most multicultural city in the United States. When I was determining where to live, I could have lived in one of 10 or 12 big cities that had an airport because I traveled a lot when I worked for the USGA, running national championships and managing a number of states. And what I like so much about Houston is the people are nice, number one. It's hot, and I like a warm climate. I'm not a windshield scraper. And really those are, and it was easy to get home to South Carolina. You can fly home in 2 hours and I could be home and pretty quickly. So. Okay.
Sounds good. So you said you grew up in kind of a family-owned business. What attracted you to the restaurant industry then?
Yeah. So, Harold's started out, it wasn't really supposed to be solely a restaurant. Like you do in creating businesses, sometimes things don't work out. And so Harold's, I renovated this building that's over 100 years old now. And the original concept was to have a neighborhood market and retail store on the first floor called the Heights General Store at Harold's. And then our main restaurant is up on the second level, which still is here today with a rooftop terrace. And the name Harold comes from, it's Harold's in the Heights. Harold was a clothier for 62 years, dressed 3 presidents. So this was a historic place in the neighborhood. And what brought me to doing this multi-concept really was how I grew up. We grew up eating around the table with our family, serving others. And then certainly I had a retail component background with all the stuff that didn't work, unfortunately. And so my love of bringing people together around food and drink is what attracted me to do the multi-concept.
Tell me about the restaurant itself. What could a customer expect when he or she goes there?
Yeah, so I call us, we're snappy casual. So we do business. We say we know our farmers. We don't call ourselves farm to table because we know who the Eggman is. We know who our produce supplier is with Atkinson Farms. So you can come here and expect handcrafted food that is used with ingredients that are as fresh and local as possible. You can't get everything that way, but we do our best. And so, you can expect good Southern cooking, and with some wonderful cocktails to go along with that, and that are a lot of fun, and a relaxed place where you can have a good time with your friends and family, dining out, and but in a pretty simple environment in general.
How did you kind of develop that concept?
It's just hospitality and what I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew nothing, about restaurants per se, except for my time with the USGA and managing and helping manage different things around championships and food and beverage, and certainly just a love for cooking. But the putting together a team of people that have like-minded philosophies on service and on hospitality is critical in how I view everything, because we have to have hospitality. That's how I was born and raised, and that's just a part of the threads of who I am, and of serving others. And so we try to do our best doing that with food and beverages, and make them feel comfortable and knowing our guests by name.
How did the name Harold's come about?
Yeah, so that was from the clothing store. So Harold and Wiesenthal and his brother Milton and their father, it was called Harold's in the Heights for 62 years, and he was a custom tailor. In fact, we have a lot of his pictures on the walls. He dressed 3 presidents in their inaugural suits. Have a super fun picture of him putting a coat on Earl Campbell, the NFL football player. He had a love for golf like me. So we have a lot of fun photos of the golfers and professional golfers that he dressed throughout the years. So that's how it came about, and we kept that name. And I lived in the Heights. I've lived in the Heights. When I moved to Houston, I've lived in this neighborhood for over 20 years now, and the Heights just reminds me of home. So we're on a place called 19th Street. And it's kind of a historic shopping district area. And it's kind of like Main Street where I grew up, except it doesn't have a courthouse on it. And so I feel like it's, a small town in a big city, and really love that. And so in keeping with the neighborhood and honoring what's happened before here, we kept the name and some original signs, and so we could keep calling Harold's.
What were how long ago did you open Harold's?
We opened up November the 8th, 2013, and it took a solid year to renovate this place, to do what we did, and adding a rooftop terrace. There was always a second floor, but we had to create a terrace. And so I learned a lot about construction and remodeling that I didn't have knowledge in, and that amazes me today, some of the things that are in my brain from that experience.
What were some of the, after you got all that done and you opened the restaurant, what were the early days like?
Well, the early days, were, we had the retail store downstairs, and a pizza oven. The pizza oven's still downstairs. And then the main restaurant was upstairs, and upstairs hasn't really changed. We have a fun dining room. On the walls of our dining room, it's wood from an 1800s cotton barn from South Carolina. Interestingly enough, our tables are made out of that same wood from a local artist, that are finished in this really cool substance. And then we have a rooftop terrace, and we also have a private dining room with our main kitchen upstairs. And then, so the early days for Harold's upstairs are really pretty much the same. Downstairs is what has changed. Now we have a super cool long shotgun bar that is called our tap room. The reason it was called the tap room, not because we have all this beer on tap. We do have beer on tap, all craft beer, but also we have wine on tap, and we also have cocktails on tap. So that was why it was called that. And so we've continued to pivot along and try to find the right formula.
Would you say your operations have changed at all, or did it start out running smoothly and continued?
Oh no, we've had to change a lot. We've definitely. My dad has this saying, "You got to gauge, change, and rearrange," and we have done that. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy in Houston named Mattress Mac. his name Jim McInvale, but he owns a furniture store, and I think half the time our staff feels like they work at Gallery Furniture because we're always moving something around.
Yeah. What are you most proud of? What's kind of your proudest moment, and what was a big contributor to you getting there?
Proud. I probably don't think about that enough, I guess. But I think mostly that create an environment for our staff and guests to be able to come here and eat and dine with good, honest food and be who they are. For us to be a fabric of this neighborhood and the community and everything that we do in the community, because we offer a lot of different support, which was one of the things that I wanted to do, and getting back to my roots of family business, like I grew up in. And so I think, we've made it 8.5 years. So Chad, that's a big deal right now. And so we keep pushing, and certainly appreciate all of the support that I receive from family and friends and our real dedicated staff members that we have here at Harold's.
Part of that 8.5 years included a pandemic. How did COVID kind of impact or change or affect you guys there at Harold's?
Yeah, COVID. I said to somebody recently, Chad, we're used to hurricanes and a lot of water and things like that. And with that, that the water's going to recede. And with COVID, it's not been like that. It's kind of been one thing after another. At one point, I think I felt like I could have worked for the SBA. I was attending so many seminars. But what it did do was it brought us closer together in general. And when we quickly, implemented doing business a different way when you're forced to shut down, and we started our, delivery service, my dining room manager and I were, out delivering. And one thing that we learned from the notes that we were getting from our guests that were writing us notes and saying, please tell everybody hello, is that if we weren't here, that we would be missed. And that was very humbling and gratifying at the same time to know that our guests really do care about us, and we care about them. And so, we still push through the issues that are causing havoc to all small businesses. No one throughout the pandemic has been left untouched, either emotionally, physically, or financially. Someone has had something happen in some regard. And so, we try to stay above the line and do the best we can do every single day, and use our resources wisely, and change things that we've done with technology, and try to work more efficiently and more effectively. And at the same time, know that we're not robots, and that we are here and human beings to serve our guests and to please our guests, and also be the guest of one another.
You're also the president, as I mentioned in your intro, of a seafood restaurant called Low Tide. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Low Tide is a brand that we started off in a food hall, and it was downtown, and unfortunately most things downtown and most downtowns throughout the United States of America did not do very well during the pandemic. So we temporarily closed that and had been looking for a spot for quite some time. And when we have a spot now, we're just getting ready to announce it. We've not even announced it yet. But we are going to be taking Low Tide to reopening it, and super excited about that. But that brand really comes from how I grew up, crabbing and creeking and fishing in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, where you caught what you ate. And so we are offering affordable, not only seafood, but we'll have chicken and burgers as well, but affordable seafood, and that where it's good and fresh, and but doesn't break the bank, where you can bring your family every week to eat if you want to, and not have to pay quite as high a price like you would here at Harold's for a piece of that fresh flounder or fresh Gulf fish, whatever it might be. So looking to really dive into the neighborhoods that we're going to be in with Low Tide, and excited about getting that back up and running, because it was a bummer to be temporarily closed, and just looking forward to creating more jobs and making people happy again there with food and beverages.
Did low tide come about after Harold's or before?
Yes.
Or after Harold's?
It came after Harold's, yes.
How did it kind of come about?
Just, the opportunity to be, I wanted to do a second concept and in trying to grow. And, I mentioned I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. And right when I got out of that, actually, is when Hurricane Harvey hit. And so, you're coming out really hard with your growth plan and everything that you're trying to do. And Harvey was a bit of a setback and all of that. Then we had an opportunity to be a part of a food hall downtown, and was just super excited about it, and still love Finn Hall and won't. I know they're getting back up and running with their with different vendors in there, and so it was a neat chance to try to test the brand before we started growing the brand. And so, we are where we are, and look forward to keeping that ball in the air and moving it forward.
Okay, sounds good. How can people find out more information about everything you've got going on?
Well, at Harold's, our website is haroldsheights.com, and we're located in the heart of the Heights on 19th Street. Low tide, we're in the middle of changing some of that in our website. It's going to be called Low Tide Kitchen and Bar. And our reopened location is going to be in Spring Branch, which is just about, about 7 or 8 miles just west of here where we are at Harold's. And so we're also on social media. You can follow us there, and we certainly appreciate that on all the different social media channels.
Okay, sounds great. Last question for you: when you go to Harold's, what would you say is kind of your go-to item?
Here at Harold's, I'm partial to our shrimp and grits. We use fresh Gulf shrimp that is wrapped in bacon, and our grits come from the grist mill in Waco, Texas. They're stone ground grits, and they're given a lot of love. And we have a really good sauce that goes on it that's made just with a little bit of Worcestershire, similar to a New Orleans style barbecue shrimp sauce that's on it. And so that's my go-to dish here. I absolutely love it. It's actually a gluten-free dish too. You don't think of things like that being that way, but it is. And but yeah, just it's a very comforting dish for me of how I grew up. But I think it's a little better than what we had growing up.
All right. Hey, it sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time today, Alli. It's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, well, I sure do appreciate it, Chad. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to be on your show.
Thank you. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.